Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Not Your Normal Discussion. I am your host, Queen Petey,
Trust.
and we have a special guest with us today, Nelle.
Hey y'all.
Okay, so Nelle wanted to talk about domestic violence and give resources on, how to get out of the situation. You can go ahead and start.
So thank you for having me on. And I just wanted to talk briefly about domestic violence in our community and hopefully provide resources to your viewers who may be going through it or know somebody who is that can use some of the information and knowledge that I have to share. So, just a little background. I am a survivor of domestic violence. Uh, it hits home. For me personally, many generations within my family have gone through it, both men and women. So, with me, I'm all about ending the generational curses. So it ends here. Domestic violence ends here. So every October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I, try to try to provide nice messages just during that month for people that could be going through it. So by definition, domestic violence is a pattern of behaviors used by one partner to maintain power and control over another partner in an intimate relationship. So this can be a marriage or a cohabitation situation. If your partner is showing that, that's domestic violence. It doesn't matter if you're white, Black, male, female, young or old. Domestic violence can affect you. And it's up to us to shatter the silence. And every October, you might see on some of my pictures and posts, I hashtag shatter the silence, just to get it out there. So I feel like the justice system has failed victims and survivors by not holding offenders more accountable. So we've seen it recently in the news, the football player dude and, swinging his child's mother into a television. The other man in Baltimore that just shot and killed the ex-wife and girlfriend, and it just needs to stop. So it is said that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men experience severe intimate partner physical violence. 19% of domestic violence involves a weapon. And on average, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner in the US. That is way too many. That is a high number. It needs to stop. And I also wanted to note that domestic violence can be emotional, it can be physical, it can be financial, and it can also be psychological. The difference in all of them is how it is exerted onto the victim. Emotional abuse is verbal abuse, bad mouthing you, name calling you, bullying you. Those are types of emotional types of trauma that can be exerted on somebody. Physical abuse, hair pulling, biting, pushing, slapping, just putting your hands on somebody as you should not, and abusing. That's physical abuse. Financial abuse, taking over your partner's finances, not pushing them, for promotions at jobs, or not allowing them to follow their dreams, or not supporting them. That can be like a financial side of domestic violence. And the last one, psychological, invoking fear on somebody, threats, harm to family or harm to pets. Those are types of things that abusers do. And it's just happening too much. So I just wanted to share with your patrons just something that I created to as a resource on domestic violence and Shatter the Silence. So it provides 10 tips to thriving after domestic violence, because that's a story, that's something that people really don't talk about, surviving after being a victim. Well, not a victim, after surviving that trauma. They don't talk about, trying to date again, especially for us millennials. Like, and then you got COVID going on. So it's a whole bunch of things that's not discussed when you go through domestic violence. And I just wanted to share and just be that at least starting point for any of your viewers that might could use this. So I have telephone numbers here, signs of what it could be, what it looks like. If you're trying to leave your abuser, having safety passwords, finding someone that you can trust and depend on, that if you're trying to leave, you have your safety, that's your safety house. Also, these are some Maryland safe houses places, but if you are, can you see it? If you are in certain areas in Maryland, they provide safe houses. So if there's an incident and you need emergency shelter, that can be provided to you. And just different education programs that's available. And I have all of that. So I would love to share it with anyone that needs it. And I also just wanted to end with a few mantras, if you will, that I have kept to myself that has helped me in my healing process. So some of them are: love doesn't hit, love doesn't rape, love does not coerce, love doesn't steal, love doesn't threaten, love doesn't cheat, love doesn't criticize, love doesn't control, love doesn't lie, love doesn't isolate, love doesn't degrade, and love doesn't hurt. So I wanted to leave that with your viewers. Yeah. Any questions?
Well, you know what I want.
If you can talk about, like, it's a huge subject. So
yeah, I mean, do you have anything first, Tris? Because
Well, first, thank you, Nelle, for sharing. And I love the giant graph. I love all the information being coordinated like that. Um, I remember seeing this one post in particular talking about two things. One, a person saying that the reason they don't spank their kids is because they don't want to mirror to their children, especially their daughter, the concept that, like, oh, I'm hitting you because I love you, because they're worried about the impact that will have on them when they're dating your partner, or mirroring that even to their son. They're like, oh, to bring into control someone that you love who's being bad or disobedient, it's okay to hit. And that's one thought I was having while you were talking. And another thought, especially with what you're saying in the end about what love doesn't do, this other post I seen was talking about how this, how there's a big thing where parents want to make sure their kids, or especially from religion, people don't want like the idea of their kids like having sex before marriage, but they said the thing that they want to stress to their kid is making sure whoever they end up sleeping with in the future is somebody that respects them. And I think that's something that when we're talking to our friends, when we're talking to our families, and if we are parents and you're raising kids, that's something to keep in mind. Like, because I know how I was raised and how a lot of my peers were raised. There was a lot of trying to control, their access to certain things, what they were doing, and like kids gonna be kids, and you hope your kids wait to make the right decisions and smart decisions. But and some kids are like this next generation. A lot of them are waiting till later, but a lot of them also aren't. But the most important thing is to put in their minds how to safely be out there, and also to be operating with respect to consent and respect for boundaries, but also to watch whoever you're dealing with and to only get with the type of people who do respect your boundaries. Because someone who's willing to, sidestep in one area, that shit could extrapolate in other ways down the line.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any
Very
questions?
valid points.
You said what?
I say he makes very good points. Good points.
Yeah, very much. I mean, I'm vocal about what has happened to me. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, jeez. Because, like, I don't know. Okay,
You
I don't.
say 1 in 4 women, and here we are, 2
Two.
out of 3 people.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, let's put that into perspective.
Yes.
It's
And
happening too much. And women, I know it's, trust me, I've been on it. I know it's easier said than done, but get out if and when you can. Like, don't wait. Don't wait for the second time, or, oh, this was just a mistake, or, oh, don't. The excuses that we make build that type of, behavior. So when you accept the excuse, oh, I'm sorry I hit you, or I'm sorry I did this, sorry, and then you keep accepting, they know what they can get away with. And abusers, narcissistic people, they keep going until they can't no more. So, that first disrespect, that first boundary crosser, go if you can. And use these resources. That's what we pay taxes for. Use these resources and, protect yourself. If you have children, care more for them and protect them. And just reach out. Like I said, I know it's easier said than done, but back then, had I known then what I know now, it's you learn and you grow, and wisdom comes from, your situations that you go through, and it helps you grow and build to be a better person. So, just leave. Just leave.
yeah, and
I was just gonna ask a question related to that, but if you want to go ahead.
No, because I was just listening to you say, they'll say, oh, I'm sorry, like that after that first time. Because it just reminded me of how, like, my ex did me, like, when we were in the car, and he had, like, grabbed me out the car after calling me a bitch and told me to get the fuck out of his car. And I mean, I was like, okay, I'll get out your car. I'm not gonna, stay where I'm not wanted. And as soon as I opened the door to, like, get out, he just grabs me. And, like, I remember I had a bruise on my arm, and it was just, like, humongous. And I'm sitting here like, what the fuck? And then, like, one day I happened to be sleeping without like sleeves or whatever. And he saw it and he was like, I did that. Like, I'm like, nigga, yeah, YouTube gonna ban us. I'm like, yeah, you did that. Like, and he wanted to be, he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Like, now you want to be sorry because you see what you did, but then you didn't stop though. Like, it's like, I wish that I had just gone home after that. Cause like, my captain, because I was a security guard, she came, she looked at me one day and she was like, hmm. She's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine, you know? And she's like, no, you're not. Because she saw me when I first got there. I was this happy, chipper, like person. And then like eventually I just went like down. Like my hair was like not cute. Like huh? Oh,
No.
I thought I heard I didn't know what I heard. I'm sorry. And like she was like, you know, you can go home because she already kind of figured something was up with him because like when I first like met her, she took me to Walmart to get like supplies for the buildings that I worked in. So, you know, make sure I didn't take any bed bugs home and stuff like that, you know, fan, make sure you're cool in the summer. And he called me like, I want to say like 15 times. And she was like, he's calling again. I'm like, yeah, because I was already used to him calling me all the time. And that's kind of why I kind of just don't really like talk. I like talking on the phone, but I don't like talking on the phone.
Triggering.
Yeah, it is. But now I'm a little better with it. Like if the person is showing me that they are making the effort to actually hear me, because I didn't get that. Like he would literally like talk the whole time. And I would, if I did say something, he would just like ignore it and go over it and like, you know, I don't care about that. I don't care about what you're talking about. I'm like, and I did that for 6 years. And I noticed that when I first left Ohio, I didn't talk when I went on dates. Like I remember somebody actually telling me, you don't smile a lot. And I'm like, what? Like, but I didn't really talk because I was so used to not talking. And I was already going through the PTSD and trying to like remember me. Remember me.
But as I have some questions. I mean, I don't know if we can still talk although
Okay.
she's off.
Ooh, I'm
I have
back.
some questions like coming from a man's standpoint, and I mean, you see the news, you hear what's going on.
Yeah.
What is your point of view on, and particularly I'm talking about men because the stats are there. Men is just the numbers are there. Numbers don't lie, and it is what it is. So as a man, knowing that there are men like you that do that or have those abusive ways, like what do you tell those type of men? Like, are they your friends? Like,
Well, basically, I wouldn't say I know. I know it happens. I've seen guys like do the teasing type of things with girls or anything like that, but I've rarely like, and I'm not sure it's something that like, at least in the circles I've been, where guys confess too much to the things they've done with women, but you just hear the way like guys will talk about their relationships or about women, and like for example, I remember one guy who would be like, "Yo, I don't be using the word," because like me talking with my female friends, they'll say bitch, I'll say bitch, and I remember one guy talking like, "Yo, I only use bitch if what you call it, um, I'm really angry with my girlfriend." I'm like, so you don't call her bitch normally, but you do call her bitch if you're angry at her. I'm like, so yeah, it's gonna piss her off if you call her a bitch. Like, what kind of energy is that? Why would you do that? And it's like a lot of this energy of, and as a guy, you sometimes get it, but you're just like, yo, it's a toxic relationship you're continuing, and where you just expect people to either put up with your cheating, you expect people to put up with like not really giving a fuck in a relationship. And a lot of people treat relationships almost like they're already married. Even me at a time period, there was a time period where like I was like, if I'm getting in a relationship, like it's like a precursor to marriage. I just gotta so I'm like willing to stay through certain things that like me now would have been left. And for a lot of guys, especially guys who do go full domestic with it, or just start building up to it with the threats, or with the ignoring, with the demeaning, and the controlling, and the calling all the time, and needing to know, like tracking them, and needing to know everything, it's almost a sense of like it's ownership, but in their minds, it's protecting basically that relationship with embarrassment. They don't want someone to make them look bad out there. They don't want to. They don't want. They've been cheated on once or twice in their lives, and now everyone's got to be scrutinized for the actions of one or two girls, and it's quite. Especially if I've noticed some things I was reading. It was saying you have abuse, domestic abuse happening across all races, across all demographics, but you also see like black women often being some of the biggest victims of domestic violence, and a lot of it is also like you can attach it to like our like history, everything from like slavery and everything else, but also a lot of it does interplay with like economics, where like if you are insecure like finances or some other way, whoever you're with is the person you start taking that out. Especially if they're talking back, especially if you feel like you're losing control of the one thing that you counted on. And that's another thing we need to talk about. This moving away from this concept of ride or die, moving away from this concept of like we should be talking partnership. We should be talking about support. And something I did want to ask you now, especially when we're talking about leave from the first sign. I think women are probably leaving now compared to like past generations. But I remember seeing one statistic saying that it often takes a victim like 6 or 7 times of trying to leave an abusive relationship before finally out. And I was wondering, what would you say are some of the best ways to help those people without judging them, like how to be there for them when they're venting, but they might still go back because a lot of times with abuse, there's also that financial control element that or that guilt of like, especially if you have kids, like, oh, how am I gonna pull it off? Oh, am I gonna put my kids in a shelter? Oh, am I gonna basically have to go homeless to like protect them? Like, or like, counting on good days and just thinking, oh, well, this is just a bad time versus like the good days we normally have, or it's not as bad as it used to be type thing. What would be a good way to help people without judging them? Because often when people like talk about leaving, they don't leave. Often you have people who will start falling off or start being like, well, she don't know what she want to do. They don't know what they want to do. They like try to help, but they don't, so I can't be bothered with that type of energy.
Um,
Um, if you are a true friend, you're gonna be there for your friend.
yeah. Mhm.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
As family members, sometimes it is hard for them. It becomes a irritation. Well, why you keep coming to me with the same problems and da 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 da. The one thing that I would say that a person needs, they need support. They need um that foundation that when they are ready to take that jump, that they won't be judged. They will be open and welcome arms. They will be taken care of. So, I would say find your supportive group. Find that one that wants to see you out of your situation and wants to help you by any means necessary. And I know it gets tiring, as a friend hearing the same stories. It gets irritating that your friend is going through the same disheartening things.
Yeah.
But we just got to be good people. Just treat one another the way you would want to be treated. Be that friend that you would want if you were in that same situation.
I
That's what I
agree.
say.
Yeah, I agree. Like wholeheartedly. Like just be there for your friend. Like don't go and because I had a friend tell me I don't respect you because you're back with this person. And I'm like, see, I could have been mean and said, girl, I know you're not talking, but I am not that type of person. I'm gonna be like, look, whenever you need me, if you need to come to my house at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, it don't matter. Call my phone, call it multiple times, and let me know you're already in your car. And you're on your way. Let me know. I will open this door. I don't care what time it is, you know. So open communication, just like you said, listening, just hear them. Don't get mad at them and say, oh, you're just gonna do this and you're not gonna really don't do that. Cause then you're actually putting the thoughts in their head that they should actually stay where they are because they're not gonna do it anyway. But yeah, just being a friend, being a support system. That's how you do it.
And providing the information, providing the data, providing
Yeah.
the resources, because like I said earlier, things just escalate. It took me all these years. My brother, he explained to me a man should never call a woman a bitch.
Never
Not
ever.
at any point in time, no type of argument, disagreement. The moment it goes from whatever your name is or your honey boo boo babe, the moment it goes to the word bitch, he no longer respects you. Now, we're young, we hear it in our music. Oh, bitch, we don't think anything about that. It's like, oh, he called me a bitch. He a bitch too. Da, da, da. But it's not respect. It's not healthy. It's toxic. He should never call you that. So those are just things that, like I said, I learned as I've gotten older, as I've grown from my situation. And just as we grow in age period, things change and more wisdom come from the people that you hang with, the circles that you keep. You just learn. So I try to tell all my girls, all my friends, people that I come in contact with, like, choose you, love yourself, and get out of the situation.
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead.
I was gonna just say two things. One, I was gonna say to any dudes watching. Also, I don't know. A lot of guys they like situations where they can call someone crazy. They like crazy energy, but you gotta start avoiding toxic situations because often if you're with someone who's been through things and they feel comfortable putting their hands on you, I feel like a lot of guys have that temptation of putting their hands back on the person and being like, well, she hit me or she touched me or she cursed me out. And like, I can understand tit for tat, but at the end of the day, like, you are just making yourself an abuser. And like, not even on some like, oh, worry about prison or anything, but like, you are creating in yourself an energy to want to escalate with a person. And whether you stay in that relationship with further relationships, the more you stay in toxic shit that increases your level of toxicity, the more likely you're going to become abusive, even if it's mentally, even if it's like as far as physically or even beyond. Like if you look at like serial killers, they didn't just start killing people from like the womb right. They escalated. They started torturing animals. They started being like wild, disrespectful with people around them. They started being abusive with partners. They started then raping victims, and then one day they ended up killing a victim, and then realizing, oh, this is also a rush for me, and like it's very easy, even if it doesn't get that far, that like the things that we allow ourselves to stay in with certain people escalate to something that's like you're looking back and it's like, oh, how did I become this person? And often with abusers, they're that way because they don't want to be told what to do. They want someone telling them off, and they want to silence anyone who's going to like call out the shit that they've allowed around them. But one thing I did want to ask, especially as a I consider myself a prison abolitionist, but I do recognize the argument that a lot of, especially either advocates for women or I do have another thing that's too. The advocates for women and also former survivors, I won't say victims, but survivors of domestic abuse, they do make a good point that, like, for example, I do believe it's good to get rid of like cash bail because
Mhm.
it's used as a way to keep people in prison for years without actually charging them. But often you have people who have committed domestic abuse or anything like that, and the women who just call the police or women who are afraid to call the police because they know how barely cops do anything and how likely it is for someone to get out at some point, and they know how shit can escalate if like they're like, oh, you called the police on me, oh, you're a snitch, oh, I gotta handle you. So I was wondering what our thoughts on that area. For me personally, um, I know that there are certain places where they do programs to help rehabilitate abusers, and I would think for that type of situation, like where they make them listen to victims, because often abusers aren't listening to the victims, they're silencing them with violence or with threats or anything else. And is to try and bring them into a realization of what they're actually doing and getting them to actually be rehabilitated and actually handle arguments and problems in a normal, non-violent way. But for me, I would think something to do for abusers, even if they're just charged, is if they're to be released, make them have to go through them type of courses, especially if they have a history of this domestic charge, that domestic charge, make them go through that before you release them back on the streets. Because then you're just releasing someone who is already seen prison cage, is already thinking, oh, I can do some time for this, and they're gonna have a vendetta against the person that put them there, even though they're doing that for their own safety. So I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
um, like I said, it goes back to once the offense is done, things are left in our judicial system.
Mhm.
As a overall system is flawed. We all know that on many different levels, from racism to inequality, just on different levels, the justice system is just flawed. That's where I would place my blame, if you will. Just a little. Yeah, I can't even say a little bit. That's where I place my blame. I'm gonna say that's where I would place my blame. Because they are the upholders of the law. They're supposed to ensure the safety of people. And if you got guys out here, beating on women, pushing them into a TV on screen, while she's holding a baby, or, holding them, just all of these types of things, what can you do for that? Give them the time that they need. That's not a slap on the wrist.
It's not.
That's not a, oh, you can do a probation term. No, you hurt somebody. You almost killed somebody. So the same way, you're giving time to a person, a drug dealer, for selling, bad heroin or something. Let's just take that because that's also going on with fentanyl. We can talk about that and how that's rushing to the streets. But when you have a flawed system, what do you expect? How do you expect the processes to work? And that's just my view. It starts there. It starts with making these offenses a bit more harder. The guy, I don't know, I think it was a couple of years ago, the guy that threw bleach on the baby mom, not bleach, I'm sorry, gasoline, and lit her on fire, the baby mama. I think, was that in our area? It was in our area.
Oh my God.
And it's just, why these people like that, that's not a 20-year sentence. Like, no, sir, you just doused her in gasoline and lit her on fire, 3rd-degree burn, Trump skin grab, all types of stuff. That's not a slap on the wrist. Like, no. So, things like that, we need to relook at our laws, relook at our politicians, relook at these people that's on these ballots for attorney and see what they stand for. And if something ain't right, speak up in your communities about it. That's what they get paid to do. That's why they were elected. Hold these people accountable. Yeah, accountability.
I don't know if Petty has anything. I have one more question. That a lot of, especially like I was saying, advocates, some of them consider things like restricting contraceptives or restricting abortion as also a form of violence against women, but on an institutional level.
Mm.
It is.
Because I mean, if we look at some even the recent like celebrity cases, like you had the whole Danny Lay and the baby situation broke out because she had some plan B sent to the house and it became a whole issue, but he was ended up using the police against her to get her out. Just for the night, he was okay with having her back the next day, but another type of control situation. And I was wondering, what are your thoughts on the concept of the different things that lawmakers are putting in place against women's freedom and women's autonomy as a gender violence and how that interplays, let's say, with like the domestic abuse at home? Because I can only imagine if you're like in Mississippi with one abortion clinic and like all these laws in either there or Texas or other places where if you try to get an abortion, like you and anyone who helped you can go to prison. That makes it much easier for abusers to control and keep a woman from leaving and feeling guilty about leaving if like he's able to impregnate her and she doesn't have any recourses to not continue to feel trapped in that situation.
You want to go?
Yeah.
Okay. So I always thought, well, didn't always think, but I do feel like that's definitely a form of like abuse and control, definitely, because why it's like I'm sorry, I ain't mean to cuss. I'm sorry, I didn't, because it really irritates me, especially when I hear about those types of situations, because it's like, dang, that's an asshole move to like ruin somebody. I'm not saying that babies ruin lives. I'm not saying that at all. But if that's not your plan and you're trying to live your life, not saying single or whatever, but like without kids, and then you have somebody telling you that no, you can't take your birth control, you can't get planned, because that's kind of what the baby was doing to Danny Lee, like with the whole getting mad at her for ordering the plan B, because she's like, look, you're not going to impregnate me again, so you continue to have control. Like 2 babies would have been like double control on her, and it's not fair, to say, oh, well, I'm a man that doesn't even have to go through the 9 months and go through the complications and everything that comes with it and comes after it, because postpartum depression is real. And when you're already in a really bad situation, and then like you get pregnant, you already got the hormones that make you irritated, mad, sad, all that. And then after you've had this baby that you really didn't want to have, now you're like super sad, and now you but what I was saying was that like a person like that's going to lead to suicide. It's going to lead to a lot of female suicide victims. I can see it. I see it and I feel it, and it's just not fair. But yeah,
And speaking on Danny Lee and the baby, so you know, he's a narcissist. Like he truly is. Like even down to his rap demeanor, like his stage
yeah,
presence, his what he raps, the things he says, he is a true narcissist. So I can believe what she probably went through during the pregnancy, pre-pregnancy, and post-pregnancy, because he just gives me that energy that you gonna be mad, do this, do that, like we gonna be in this forever, and then boom, 3 weeks later, drops you like a hot plate. Like he just gives me that energy, and it's so unfortunate. Like they just brought another human being into this world, and it's toxic. Ooh, I'm sorry. It's just toxic already.
You can cuss. It's fine. I just didn't want to say Nick. That's all.
That's definitely, and you know what? That's a form of abuse. Looking, if research, whoever researchers want to look in on their relationship outside looking in, it's an abusive relationship emotionally. When she said, so you wasn't just telling me that he emotionally played with her mind. He played games. That's emotional abuse. I told you guys that. So you know, we're seeing it. We're seeing it on our social media. We're seeing it, and it's so sad because hip hop, you know, we started that, and we have to want to do better. We can't keep these same narratives. You know, we gotta do better. So maybe this will be a story that sheds light on that, more healthier relationships, but they toxic.
Oh, very much. Yeah, it is crazy. But go ahead.
I was gonna say it's important to watch how somebody treats other people. Like I know people joke online and say things like, "I want somebody who's mean to everybody else but nice to me." But like, if the only reason they're nice to you is because they're with you, because they're accepting you. Just like I always say, if someone would like fuck up somebody else for what they interpret as disrespect or disloyalty, somebody they don't even know, like or have some tangible connection with. What are they gonna do to you, the person that they're sleeping with, that they now demand loyalty and respect from? Like, and like, yes, there are people who like there's limits to everything, but the second you see someone is capable of just doing whatever to somebody else, like it should resonate in your mind. Like, all right, what's keeping them from doing that to me? And watch their energy. Watch like people show us who they are, and just because we don't believe that we are doing anything that would be on that level to violate, but people are showing themselves every day. Like the situation with Tory Lanez too, where like the detective, I don't know where the detective was, but I can only imagine when like the police showed up and he's still talking shit. That's the only way I can imagine a detective knows that Tory Lanez was saying shit like "dance, bitch, dance" about shooting at her feet.
Oh,
And
jeez.
people still don't believe me. I can't imagine why people still don't believe. To me, it's a matter of I can only imagine you not believing it happened if you didn't think there was a gun at all and that she somehow messed with her foot. But if you believe she actually was shot, then like what is the complaint? What is the disbelief? But that's another thing that helps perpetuate domestic abuse, where you're not believing the victim. And I know people don't want to just believe people without evidence, whatever. But again, there's always patterns. People who have been abusing and get away with abusing. One, there's escalations. There's steps and levels that they're taking, and it builds up the more comfortable they get. And then two, you're gonna see a trail of people like, yeah, that person. Same thing with like people who are sexual assaulters. There's a trail of people like, yeah, this person also did this to me. They also treated me like this. So we need to be believing victims more. And yes, I always say believe at least enough to get like due process, get evidence, do a thorough investigation, but at least believe the patterns. If you're seeing signs, if you're seeing people who are smiling at like the family, the people that they killed in self defense, You're seeing this person in their entourage constantly beating the fuck up out of people that are just coming up to say hi to them. If you're seeing them hit women, like in a random crowd and be like, oh, I didn't know she was a woman, but I still kept going in anyway because I thought she was a woman. Like if you see people with that kind of energy, then it shouldn't be that far fetched that like they're abusive and that the person that they're with needs help.
So you gotta think though, like it just happens over time. It's an escalation, Some days it's probably really good. You don't see that, but then it be those days, and it's those days that are bad that add up. So,
Exactly.
I like I said, as a survivor, I totally get it. I get it. I get the emotional. I get the physical. I get the stress of it all. Of I should go, but I should stay. And I wanted to add that you, on top of the physical side, you also have your emotions and your feelings. So now when you're talking about abuse, you also have to throw in the fact that, well, damn, I kind of love this person. We got history, we got time. Like at the end of the day, it's like one of those, it's just one of those fights. And that's why I said, like, knowing what I know now, I would tell my younger self, choose you. You don't deserve anything. The first disrespect, go.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I just want to say, like, when the whole thing of my ex pulling me back into the car and the bruise and stuff, I didn't realize that he had actually torn my bicep off of the muscle when he did that. Yeah, I didn't know until I got surgery. Yeah, I always wondered why like this arm was a little wanky sometimes, but I thought it was just like my RA, but no, he went in there thinking I had a torn rotator cuff. And he said, yeah, we have to talk about, what happened with your arm. He's like, we had to sew your bicep back onto your muscle. And I was like, what? And then like because at first I was like, how did that happen? But then like I found out that my dad knew when he picked me up because I didn't know anything. That he had actually called my dad first. But my dad already figured. He was like, yeah, I'm not gonna mention this to her. She just got out of anesthesia. I don't want to mess up her mood. So yeah, he tore my bicep.
Dirty.
And now I'm left with scars on my shoulder. I'm gonna just go ahead. So yeah, I'm left with this because they had to go in, and this is what it looks like because I ignored red flags. So it actually goes all around, and it's not cute. People look at me and they're like, "What's that?" Like I've had family members be like, "What happened to your arm?" I'm like, "Really? Okay." And then I have to explain it. But we had the same, yeah, we got the same experience. Like people look at us funny sometimes. Like it's like, and it's not the best feeling.
Because a lot of survivors, they wear their scars. Literally, you wear your scars. I'm wearing my scar. I'm sure you can tell. And it's something that you just have to live with for the rest of your life. Not to mention the mental process of debunking those negative thoughts, getting out of that, like telling yourself, no, I am pretty. I am beautiful. I'm not fat. I'm thick. You gotta try to do those things. And that's why I want to help, like, reach out to as many people as I can and just spread the word. Like, we gotta come together and really end this thing, because if we don't, who will?
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely true. So once you see the red flags, run. please run. Y'all made it a trend to point out these red flags. Now, when you see them, please go.
Exit
Yes,
left.
exit to the left. Like just go, because it is not worth it. Like, I'm still trying hard to just be like, I'm good enough. I'm not a bad person. Like, and I refuse to be taken advantage of at this point. Like, you're not gonna mess with me. The moment I see that you're trying to take advantage of me, I'm just like, nope, 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 nope. But yeah, I've been laying out my boundaries to people. Like, I'm like, look, this is what I don't like. If you do this, you will not hear from me again. Point blank, period. I don't have the time. Like, I'm getting old. So I don't have the patience to run around and play games with men that should have grew up 10 years ago. So yeah.
In 2022, men, they gonna do better. You're gonna.
I know they will.
I just hope that there's more support amongst the women, unless because I know a lot of guys, they especially abusers, they find advantages in women who are willing to fight against each other and compete against each other for men, or just or to be like, oh, I'm like more willing, like that same thing with Nelle and the X-Men drama where they're going back and forth against each other for the baby and talking about, oh, like basically who he's gonna come back to, and it's like you're in a situation where you're competing for someone's. It'd be one thing if like y'all was all in some kind of copacetic poly type of thing, but y'all not. Y'all are fighting each other for one person's affection and attention, and willing to put up with like fuckery and like control just to get it, and not realizing the game. So like always like the same way I say when it comes to black people, like or the conversations on the left about whether we should de-radicalize or punch Nazis. That's for white people to worry about. White people who are allies, find out, find them if you're capable of de-radicalizing the Nazis and the racists. Cool, but if you see that we need to protect people of color, black people,
we got our own problems.
yeah, and the same for men to realize that like, and I always say like, there's only so much conversation. If a man's cool with you, but he doesn't look up to you or respect you, there's only so far you're gonna get with like talking to him about shit he shouldn't be doing because he's like nigga whatever. But at the end of the day, it's not for women to try and change men or to hope men will be better. Like I think it would be best if like women continue to like in the concept of protect the women and children, protect themselves, build community for themselves, have support for themselves, and for men to be the ones to either de-radicalize men who are on a terrible trajectory or be willing to punch or like ostracize those who they know are like willing to commit violence against people that you love or people you don't know because you can't be mad that the dating pool is shaping up a certain way that people have certain reservations when you're also the same people who allow shit to go on and be like, that's not my problem. If you allow it to happen, then you can't complain about the people who are taking extra steps to protect themselves.
I agree. Interesting.
Yeah. Because it's a problem and we'll never grow as a community and we'll never like advance past the other white supremacist bullshit if we're constantly still having to fight the fights and constantly have to talk about like oh who should be forgiven who what's allowable not allowable if we just start moving from a place of respect and realizing like if you want even for the fetishists out there who are on their light skins and their whites and all that if you're still saying, oh, well, we don't like our black women dating people of other races or leaving us behind or calling us dusties, then you got to start holding someone, including yourselves, accountable, even if you're not abusing people, just accountable for how you talk to other people about these type of subjects. Because just because I'm not out here punching nobody or slapping nobody doesn't mean, and even if I'm like not hanging around people who are talking about that stuff, that's there's still a way I should be talking about these different types of issues to other people so that like when we're talking about it, it's not from a place of, like, well, I understand why he did it. All right, fuck that. Like, It's understand what you want, but at the end of the day, they're still harming someone. So how are we talking about this shit and how are we reaching out to protect people and provide a community of support and a life raft for them, basically.
So I can be found on Instagram at A Queening Business or on Facebook at A Queening Business LLC. If you have any questions, you just want to talk, might need a resource, shoulder to lean on, all of that, just reach out to me and I will share, with you the resources that I have, the knowledge that I've learned.
Yes.
And yeah, we in this together.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you
Okay.
for.
Well, thank you.
So, speaking of abusers, Ghislane Maxwell, Madam and right hand, former right hand of the late Jeffrey Epstein, who supposedly killed himself in trial. She's currently awaiting trial, or no, she's currently on trial right now, facing something like 6 counts of sexual assault and related to trafficking, all the victims that they trafficked, all the young girls that they would pay to do massages and more for some of the richest, most elite, not just in America, but around the world. They're connected to everybody from Trump to Bill Clinton to Bill Gates to all kinds of bankers, celebrities, like the list goes on and on. But funny enough, not only is she being charged for crimes before that happened because of a crazy Bill Cosby type deal, but also they're leaving out key witnesses, and the media is doing very little to cover the story. And it's quite intriguing that as much as they've been covering all the other types of court cases going on now, from we just had Kyle Rittenhouse, we've had the Ahmaud Arbery murders by the Bryan family, and also the Justice Smollett. They've had a lot of conversation about all that, but someone who's been a madam and been accused of getting girls, young girls, to service Jeffrey Epstein and all of his billionaire clients. Not only are we not hearing much information about that, but we're not even hearing the names of the people who are all involved. And let me remind you, Jeffrey Epstein would record basically everybody that would get these type of massages and whatever else. So, and he had a little black book too. And there are people that
Well, I
like,
had that little black book. I actually like tweeted out all the names from that. So if y'all want to know who was up in there,
and it's
go
funny,
to
a
my
lot of
Twitter. Go to my Twitter. Go ahead.
uh, but the news hasn't been covering it. People are saying because they don't want to inflame the QAnon people, which is like, okay, so you're just going to make them feel even more like there's conspiracy. But on some real shit, it kind of is when, and let's talk about that deal before I pass it on to you. So basically, the reason she's being charged for shit like from like 1990 or 1980 or something like that is because Jeffrey Epstein, when he basically did his deal before he like got caught again, like for his deal where he was basically going to do work release from prison, still go to his island, still have people at the island, still have girls at the island. His little work release deal that he made was not to just protect like himself, but also Ghislaine and anyone else who was associated going forward. So on some Bill Cosby shit, but yeah, a lot of funny shit's happening. A lot of people are resigning. People who like, for example, I guess Jess Dolly of like Europe. He's one of their biggest lawyers, not lawyers, one of their biggest bankers. He retired. He will resign, and he had over 12,000. No, not 12,000. 1,200 emails with Jeffrey Epstein going for like 4 years, using coded words like Snow White, and he won't explain what those words mean, what those terms mean. Bill Gates, who said he needed Jeffrey Epstein in order to get before the Nobel Peace Prize, which shows you how connected he is. But also, Ghislaine also added a level of connection because her father was rich. She was a socialite. She's the same one who was partying with Chris Cuomo's wife. Chris
Yeah.
Cuomo and his wife talking all their sex assault shit too, sex harassment shit. And at the same time, Ghislane Maxwell was so connected that she was at Hillary Clinton's daughter's wedding. Chelsea Clinton.
Yeah, Chelsea. Mm.
And I don't know if y'all have seen, but Bill Clinton also has a picture of getting serviced by one of these girls too out there. And Trump been saying sketchy shit on her too. QAnon, as much as they love Trump, as much as they're calling out all of this like pedophilia and all this other shit, is wild that they still celebrate their man. Like he's not also with the transcripts. Like
Yeah.
victims saying that Jeffrey Epstein introduced her to them when they was like 14. But people want to play for the team they want to play for. But I'll pass it off to you on this all this wild funny shit.
Um, I think that they definitely need to drag her the way that they drug R. Kelly and Bill Cosby and everything. Like the way that it was just on the television every time that like you turned it on, it was just that's what they focused on. I feel like they probably I really don't feel like it's them saying, oh, we don't want to make the QAnon people go crazy, but like this has already been known. Like with the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing, that's they were already cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I did an article on them. I literally was on their message boards. Like when they have a fact of something, it's a fact. Like just put out the names. Let us know who's out here being nasty and disgusting, and let us go on about our lives. Like throw them in jail. Let us go. Like I mean, they told on Prince Andrew like super fucking quick. Like they didn't even wait. They were like, Prince Andrew. I'm like, but I believe that shit. I believe he did it. They need to stop, and they also need to stop like because she's a woman, you know. I
Yeah.
feel like that's another reason, a white woman at
That she's a
that they
victim,
don't want to drag her so hard.
arguing that she's a victim of his, and that like she's only getting blamed
Girl, you
because
knew what you were doing. She knew what she was doing. I'm sorry. You
like
know
he brought
right from wrong as a grown ass woman. You know right from wrong. Come on. If I don't like if my ex had ever said some weird shit like, oh, I want you to go get this little girl and have her service me, I would be calling the police. There is no amount of money, no amount of love that would ever make me want to victimize a little girl or a little boy. Like that just does not compute. Like you knew what you were doing. And if it was for the money or for whatever feeling she had for him, you are a dumbass bitch. You're a dumbass bitch, and I have no sympathy. I hope that them lesbians in there beat your ass every damn day. Every day. I hope whenever you go to the shower, you slip on soap and get in your fucking eyes. Like you're a disgusting person.
yeah,
Just
I didn't think it was like some like, oh, I'm doing it because she was a part of victimization. Like they
mhm.
also
Like you are the right hand woman.
she didn't just groom them, but she was also assaulting them too. She was part of it. But it's just like everything with her is so sketchy. Like even when they found her, she was like in hiding in some mansion, pretending to
Honey.
be a reporter, and like she wouldn't say who the mansion would belong to that she was like hiding out in. Like everything with her is sketchy, and even if you look at like the news organizations that aren't really covering this, like Jay just recently had a CNN producer. I don't know if he's arrested, but I think he
Yeah.
was
No, was he arrested?
arrested. He was at
Or
CNN.
he was at least fired.
Who was cool, who basically he's like been shown to have been grooming like getting the moms of like these girls, at least three different girls, to like groom their daughters for him, and like he would pay them. So it's just And I think that's the reason there's so many rich people involved in this is because they're so rich and their wealth comes from exploiting people already. And because they're so rich, they want the things that nobody else has access to. They want to be able to do the shit. And I'm sure some of them probably weren't doing as wild shit as like all of the things that are going on. But the fact that they were also comfortable in these circles says a lot about how these circles operate and what other kinds of people they allow in their circles, just as long as they're comfortable being rich and keeping the secrets. Because that's probably why Jeffrey Epstein died. He was collecting blackmail. That's why uh, Ghislane Maxwell has been so mum on like extra details besides just saying to other people because she wants some leverage, but at the same time she doesn't want to put herself out there to also mysteriously die. And but a lot of the victims are upset because they're saying, why are they only prosecuting her? Why are they only focusing on her? There's so many other people who are involved and involved deep in the grooming and like assault and being used and trafficked and all that.
Yeah.
And it's very much a scapegoating that the rich are willing to do protect themselves while trying to keep this image like they're respectable, professional, honest people and not the type of monsters that they would throw away if they were poor or a different race as well.
I don't know. I mean, yes, I can definitely agree that, yeah, she's probably the scapegoat. Yeah, they're the one. I mean, not there. Well, yeah, technically they're there. But yeah, she's the one that they could really get their hands on. Let's just say that. Because I mean, they can I just really want them to get their hands on the people that were in the book. Just go ahead and arrest them. I mean, I've seen the affidavit and the what the little 13-year-old girl said about Trump and Epstein fighting over her virginity. I read it and it was just it was that's a baby. That's a little baby. And y'all over there fighting about who's gonna put their old man penis in this little girl. But they didn't arrest Trump though. Don't know why.
I think because again, he too probably the people who know too much that they're worried about talking and also the following he has, I think they're trying to protect themselves as much as possible. It can all be
Arrest the man. Arrest him.
not just him, but like think about like for example, there was one person on Wall Street, I think Leon Black, one of the wealthiest people on Wall Street, who gave Jeffrey Epstein like 150 million dollars for tax advice. Even Bill Gates, who like has been one of the lead proponents on like everything people have been complaining about with vaccine this, vaccine that, but also not wanting to release the patents so like other countries can get the vaccine and like be able to replicate it without
Mm.
an arm and a leg for it. He at the same time was also, like I said, it's so wild for think that a billionaire would need the help of someone like Epstein while he's still on probation for shit, for this type of shit. They would
Yeah.
need to get before the Nobel Peace Prize. It's like, why do you have those connections? Why is he your access point in? And just, just like I said, all the wild shit, all the inhumanity that all these rich motherfuckers have, and no remorse, no guilt, just like I keep that shit away from me. Don't let them find out. Or like I didn't do anything, but I admit my relations with these people were weird. And like what's even weirder that's not being discussed too, Jeffrey Epstein also like would consult and work with a bunch of scientists too, because he was this weird eugenicist who like this weird racist who wanted to create a
He
mass.
was probably trying to clone some of them girls. That's what he was trying to. So he could have them in his private dungeon. Little nasty ass. I'm sorry. I had to say that. I had to. I'm sorry.
So many conspiracy levels that like it's like maybe you should talk about that shit because you're gonna have people continue to just wonder even wilder shit than probably happened if you don't investigate. Like there's a bunch of people who are resigning over their ties, and if the media wanted to, they could investigate, but they're also complicit. They also have relationships with these people, and they also, I mean, especially mainstream media, they get a lot of ad money from a lot of these corporations where the people who are in charge of them might be complicit or know others like an Epstein or like a Ghislane Maxwell. And not to mention that Ghislane Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein also have connections to like intelligence agencies, not just here, but
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
like interconnection is like, yeah, I can see like QAnon, they be on some crazy shit. They would make a lot more sense if they also had the same smoke for their boy
Yeah.
Trump. If they had the same smoke, I'd be like, all right, y'all be on
Yeah.
some wild,
Y'all cooling. Yeah.
but y'all giving it to everybody who's on the
Mm.
list. They not, but
But
you're
they
right.
only doing it to Democrats. Like it's weird. It's real weird.
And the Democrats do have their shit. Like it's like
Yeah, I
obviously
know. No.
they be doing their fuck shit. But like, for example, the Times Up CEO, they resigned because it came out that they were helping Andrew Cuomo discredit his victims like Lindsey Boylan. They were using Biden's playbook of discrediting Tyree to discredit Lindsey Boylan. Chris Cuomo, he was eventually fired because I mean he wasn't fired because of it. They waited till another Me Too allegation came up against him to just now we're gonna fire him. But they were completely fine with him interviewing his brother, covering up the whole all the old people he killed, and him basically collecting money off taxpayers to write a book and using staffers to write the book for him. Like 3 weeks into the pandemic, already writing a book while he's getting old people killed and what you call it, giving a pass to basically doing liability shields for the people, the executives who are running those nursing homes. But he was also like using Chris Cuomo was using his uh, journalist ties to get information on like his victims who are coming out to accuse him, so that they could already run interference and everything like that. And it's just these are the type of people who are running our media, who are running our
Yeah.
banks, and just stay woke. Just do your research and just I won't say do your research and join QAnon. I will say do your research. Everything is not just black and white. Everything is not just because it's right or wrong. A lot of things happen in the shadows that is completely either evil or just morally duplicitous and fucked up because the rich want to have their cake and eat it too. They want access to shit that like no one should have, and they want to basically treat the world like their oyster, like their playground, while still moralizing to you about how you should live. Amen.
Okay. Well, let's go on and segue to our next story, which is very, very unfortunate with the victims of the tornado that hit Mayfield, Kentucky, and other parts of Kentucky and other states too, right?
It
Like
hit
Illinois.
Kentucky, it hit Illinois. It was like a line of states in the Midwest that got
Yeah,
ran.
that is why I don't live in the Midwest anymore, y'all. Yeah, but that's not really why, but it's damn cold there. But I think it's sad, especially like hearing that the Amazon managers were telling them, hey, if you leave after, the first warning went off, you're going to be fired. And actually they said that the candle factory, they were told that too, that they would be fired if they left. And I'm like, so there's a tornado coming and you're going to tell me that I can't get to my family, and the tornado has not really hit yet. That's just the first warning. That's the warning to, get out and go home, get somewhere safe. And y'all just like that's why those people died. Like because they were told they couldn't leave. If they had left, nobody would have got crushed by anything. Nobody would have got hurt. They would have been home in whatever what those things called? The things that they go into when they have tornadoes. So, what's it called?
You said shelters,
I guess tornado shelter.
like a
Is it
bunker.
called that though? Oh, I had a blonde moment. Ooh. No, they could have went home, and and at least grab the most important things for them, like papers, pets, whatever.
It might
Um,
be if they went home. Like, I'll let you finish, but like one case in particular is extra wild.
uh, but I'm gonna be honest, I have a little beef with Amazon. They must have heard what I said on that last episode. Well, not last episode, but that one episode when I was going on. Because can I review stuff again, please? Can I do that? No, but like when I heard that, the warehouse had got hit before I even knew anybody died, because I didn't even think anybody was in there. I was like, see, that's karma for messing with one of your affiliates. That's karma. But now I'm like, but no, in all seriousness, this is a sad situation all around. Those people should have been able to go home.
Mhm.
I'm wondering, how much is he going to get back for the insurance of all this?
I mean,
Because he's going to make something off of this.
that's the point. A lot of companies they take out certain policies on workers just to get money when they die, which is wild. Like you don't realize not only is your wage being stolen, but they're literally profiting if you live it. Like they don't care if you live or die. You're just a cog in the machine, specialized for whatever they got you doing. And what's extra sad about the situation is that like I mean they already said like something like 76, maybe 80 at least have died like in Kentucky alone
Yeah.
from tornado. And so think about it passing through 5 states, how wild that is. And these
Yeah.
were like up to like 150 miles per hour. And with the case of the Amazon warehouse, like it literally knocked the walls inward, so the roof collapsed down on them.
Yeah.
They were telling people they're telling people to shelter in place, but you have situations where, like, for example, a driver. Oh, and like it's like to mention also, it's like 6 people who died in the Kentucky in the not in the Kentucky in the Illinois warehouse where
Okay.
Amazon Mayfield candle. It was like
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say Kentucky for the warehouse?
Kentucky has the Mayfield candle company that
Yeah.
let people die, and with that one, they were using inmates too. So like, you tell someone that you can fire them if they don't. That's not even like, all right, go home. That's like, no, you're gonna go back to prison and languish. You're no longer be a part of the work program if you don't shut up and like tolerate what's going on. And like, what's crazy, you even have a deputy who tried, like, who lost their life trying to protect some of the inmates. But again, they weren't allowed to leave. There was nowhere to shelter, and like you would think these places would have shelters when, like, for example, Illinois is like ranked number 9 for tornadoes. It's not.
And, like, yeah, you're right. They should have had somewhere that was like a basement or something where they could go if there's a tornado. You would
And
think with all the money Jeff Bezos makes, he would do that or put that in the plan, or somebody would have put that shit in the plans. But no.
the said that they don't get emergency trainings.
Yeah.
They're even discouraged from taking time off from natural disasters because it slows productivity. And one guy, for example, Larry Burden, he was actually texting his girlfriend, Cherry Jones, who lived like 13 minutes away. And he was texting her saying that, like, oh, they're not allowing us to leave. And this was about 16 or 20 minutes before the tornado came down. So if he was allowed to leave, he would have made it there
Yeah.
safely. But
Yep.
now he was only working there for 5 months, and now he died for his company, and he leaves behind 4 kids. You have another guy who, like, a younger guy who worked with his dad there at the warehouse, and they worked together on like Wednesdays, and so they like that was something that they were happy about. They were hyped about. But when
Yeah.
he tells them that, like, he leaves them a message saying like, "Oh, they're keeping us here. Like, I'm gonna just have to shelter here." They're so worried that they drive over there, the parents, and when they get there, the tornado's already flattened the building, and they're waiting till 4:30 in the morning to find out that their son is one of the 6 that have died.
That's
And
just sick, man.
and
That's
in the past 6 months, this is the third time that Amazon's basically forced people to work through like deadly conditions. Like you had like the record-breaking heat waves in the Pacific Northwest. You had Hurricane Irma floods in New York earlier. And this is the same company that like would force people to put their phones in lockers and
Mhm.
put metal detectors so that their productivity is not slowed down in the warehouse. This is the same company that would make their workers piss in bottles and shit in bags while they're
Yeah.
driving because they're being tracked in time on how long it's taking for them to deliver things. And this is the same that when we're talking about you would think they would have shelters if they're going to make them shelter in place because it's safer. You would think that, but at the same time, this is the same company that instead of putting ACs in a lot of their warehouses back in the day, they would have an ambulance waiting to take people to the hospital if they fainted from heat exhaustion because that costs less than actually running AC for their slaving workers. So you have, and at the same time that all this was happening, CNN was covering this, but also at the same time they were covering Jeff Bezos celebrating a nice little 6 minute space tour with Michael Strahan.
And that was so disrespectful. I was like, y'all, you could have waited. I'm sorry. It's people that died working for you. They were not very, I'm pretty sure they weren't pressed about your ass going to space. And they would have at least wanted you to say something
Especially since you
more.
before with Captain Kirk and a bunch of other people. Like this is not something new. It'd be no newsworthy if something happened up there, like they had a rescue or some shit.
Mhm.
But you've been doing this.
Yeah. And it's disgusting because like, I mean, this is not the first time that people have died in the warehouse. Like, because I mean, during quarantine, they had like somebody died in the bathroom, like in one of the warehouses. And I know
Yeah,
one lady called COVID. She didn't die in the warehouse, but she had just come home from work and she had died from COVID because they weren't testing properly. Like, it's just like I will never work for the Amazon warehouse, which is why I just work as the affiliate, their influencer. That's it. Because I'm not packing shit for y'all.
yeah.
I'll use your stuff, but I'm not packing.
Yeah, I'm like I always say when I start a new job, I'm like John Henry, I'm the hardest worker. But the second I start feeling the wage slavery, it's like my nigga, I made my 3 months. You can't just get away with
It's a lot.
I'm gonna ask and I've been late. You're gonna start hearing me talk to these motherfuckers about take your break, nigga. This is not rocket science. This is not brain surgery. No one's gonna die if we don't deliver these products. But they're willing to kill people so that the things are delivered on time, packed on time.
And
Take your break.
that's crazy.
I rates on them so that they know to speed up and do shit. And you have people falling off ladders because of shit like that. And like, what's crazy too is because our government, both parties, Democratic, Republican, are both owned by these corporations. Like OSHA's investigating now, especially with the Amazon situation. But who knows if at the end of the day they're just like, all right, we're gonna fine you, and who knows, we'll even give you funding now to build better bomb shelter, better tornado shelters and everything like that, better bunkers, so that you're keep working through a hurricane or a tornado rather than going home to be with their loved ones should the worst happen. Like,
You know what? I would rather my package be late.
yeah,
I really would. I'd rather my package be late than people risk their lives to try to get my package out the door. Like it's okay if it's a couple days late, 3, 4 days, as long as people are safe. Like that's what I care about. Like I don't like I've already paid for it. I know it's coming, you know. But maybe I'm different and I have more patience for things like that. But I know
what,
there are people.
yeah, no,
Hmm,
continue.
no, I know it's people out there that like I need it now. But for me, if it's something that I need like now and I can't risk it being late, I'm gonna go to the store. I'm gonna go to the store. Like I always think about the people that are in the warehouses, you know, because I've had my god sister. She used to work at the warehouse, so I've seen what it looks like in there. I know what the conditions are. So I don't want to talk. It's just I think about those people that have to stand up for like all those hours and their feet are hurting and they can't sit down. People stealing your sections, acting like what you gonna do? Like I think about them and I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna bitch about something being late. Like it's okay as long as they're safe. I don't care. You know, let them go home. That's it. That's all.
No, I hope more people will get militarized and radicalized to like start standing up against corporations. Because again, our government's not gonna do it. Like two of the people they most recently put on the Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, they specifically put them on because they said, "Yo, a corporation can get away with killing you, and it's okay under the law."
Mhm.
Like they have no problem with it. But I hope we start standing up for our fellow workers. Like I would love for a general strike to start breaking out. We had the Great Resignation. Hopefully, one day soon we have general strike because the government's not going to listen, and these corporations are going to continue to allow people to die if all they got to worry about is a fine, and if no one's going to get arrested over like these negligent, like industrial revolution era type fuckery that they're doing to the workers. So
Yeah.
when companies treating their workers wrong, when you see people striking against them for things like fair wages, not being overworked, actually being able to actually having paid leave or something like that, then
Mhm.
don't cross pick a line, find out what brands a company has and boycott. Like I
Yeah.
love flakes. I love me some special cave, especially with the berries. But right now there's that boycott going on where the Kellogg's workers were being overworked, working like something like 80 hours back to back every
Yeah.
week, not being paid right, working in sweltering conditions and like unhealthy conditions. Don't call, and then they for the workers that were striking, they replaced them with scabs. So do what you can whenever you find out a strike is happening. What find out, and Kellogg's goes beyond just cereal. They also do Pop Tarts. They do morning
Mhm. Uh-oh. You froze again. Oh my. You're frozen. You're frozen. You're frozen again. You are frozen. Hold
your
on.
own app.
Oh wait. Oh, okay. So it was frozen.
Oh, so it would be like that. All right, let me just repeat real quickly. They messing with me. They don't want me to get this message out. But
It's Zoom. Go
you
ahead.
find out boycotts are happening, when you find out strikes happening, research what brands are there. Like I was saying, Kellogg's, for example, the workers being who are out there striking and protesting, they're being replaced by scabs who are crossing the picket line. So don't you join the picket line to find out what brands Kellogg's is doing. Like for example, Pop Tarts, Pringles, Morningstar, um, Eggo waffles.
Yeah.
Like protest
I know
because
those are your favorite. I'm sorry. No, I said they're your favorite, but go ahead.
oh yeah, it is. But at the end of the day, we gotta hold each other down because at the end of the day, especially when we're talking about these storms, like climate change is only gonna get worse. It's like scientists went from saying 2050 is when society will collapse and saying moving it up to 2040. If you ask certain astrologers, they'll say 2026 is when Pluto returns, gonna fuck up America. And these companies are going to continue to just work us to death because we're again just cogs in the machine. They're willing to put our health and safeties on the line if it means a few extra bucks for their CEOs so that they can fly to space or whatever the fuck they want to do off that money. So at the end of the day, we gotta look out for each other because just because it's done today doesn't mean it won't be you at your job tomorrow.
And I forgot in the beginning to say that Sugar and Karina, Sugar and Nina will be back next week. I promise. I don't they they're not feeling too good. So prayers for them. Yes. All right. You said what?
We need a team back.
Yeah, we need our team back. I miss my team. I love my co-host stuff. Um, but it is promotion time. Promotion time. So you guys definitely follow A Queening Business from my friend Nelle. She's the one that actually does my manicures whenever my nails are done. It's her. Um, I have my book on Amazon. I know. Uh, and my blog, Queen Beauty Rights. I am still doing the fundraiser for Love Queen Cure Foundation, where they teach young women about breast cancer and inform them of yeah, okay, and inform them about all the dangers and the things that can happen. Um, yeah, I think that's all. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot I'm cutting out tonight. But do you have anything?
Well, I want to promote as often I always do the mutual aid groups that I work with. Each one is mutual aid. We were doing just a lot of work just now, from getting food from different food banks to put in different community fridges and serve to people. To
Mhm.
I was with a neighbor with like two giant bags of clothes and like big bag of toys and one big bag of like bladder pads and like other things like, and just getting that to people in the local neighborhood. And again, it's winter, so people are getting cold, and we're trying to take care of people. So East Village Mutual Aid, Believe New York, they're out there still doing the toy drive, getting that to people, and also collecting warm clothes for people. And Washington Square Park Mutual Aid, every Friday they're out there feeding people, providing clothes. So the link's going to be there for that. And then also, I personally am working on a few different like zines or booklets for different socialist causes and different things to help people, help teach them, but also help them be able to talk to other people who may not understand certain concepts yet. Like, for example, one that I'm working on right now is critical race theory. So imagine trying to break that down for your average person out there. So once that's ready, I'll put that up there, and I'll also put a link in case people want to help contribute to help with that cause too. But yeah, we just gotta hold each other down through all this.
Yeah, definitely. All right, you guys. So we always appreciate you watching, liking, commenting. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow our Instagram, follow our Twitter, like us on Facebook. Yeah, we definitely appreciate it. And you know, hope you guys stay safe and thank you. Thank you for watching us.
You guys do, and hopefully you bring back that same love to y'all.
All right. Well, we will see you guys in the next one.
Bye.
This is not your normal discussion where we talk all about the hard topics uncensored. This is no